let's take it to the second level. And when you take in Drew White and Bertrand and Kiser and Bauer, there's a lot of production there. Drew White's gone. How does the second level stack up for 22?
It's got to get better. I mean, I think that's the thing is the production was good, right? Like Drew White was a productive player for 3 years, and JD Bertrand over 100 tackles last year, 7 tackles for loss. Jack Kiser had 2 huge pick sixes last year, but the production wasn't good enough. It was the tackles for loss numbers were way down compared to what they've been in the past. I mean, they had Drew White the year before had 9 tackles for loss. I think he had 8 the year before that, or vice versa. He might have had 9 in 2019 and then 8 in 2020. It was one of those two. He was down to 4.5 last year. JD Bertrand was their leading tackler, but only had 7 tackles for loss. Jack Kiser wasn't a super disruptive player outside of, the couple big pick sixes. And they were big plays. I mean, the pick six against Wisconsin put that game away. And the pick six he had against Georgia Tech was a real big moment in really burying the Yellow Jackets early in that game. But, there's also a lot of coverage issues. I mean, that was another big thing, is just getting beat up the seams and, the overall lack of length. I mean, Jack Kiser 6'1", JD Bertrand 6 foot, Drew White 6 foot, and none of them are necessarily long. Right? Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is only like 6'1", but he was super long, right? Like they didn't have that length. And so against some of the better opponents, they wouldn't have some problems. North Carolina gave them some problems up the seams. USC gave them some problems up the seams. Oklahoma crushed them up the seams. So I think the production is going to have to get a lot better. Now, the good news is as you mentioned, other than Drew White, everybody's back. But they also get Marist Liufau back. He was projected to be their starting will last year. If he comes back, and then you've got Prince Kollie going in his sophomore year, Notre Dame just signed the best linebacker class in the country, in my opinion, as an incoming freshman. They're all early enrollees. All 4 of them are early enrollees, which is huge. You're going to have a longer group. You're going to have a more athletic group. What we don't know is if you're going to have a more productive group. Now, Marist Liufau, to me, is the key to that whole thing, because if he can stay healthy and be what he was before, so my sources close to the team were telling me last summer and early in fall camp that he was by far their best linebacker. And I even had a coach tell me then and remind me again this offseason, he was our best pass rusher last year. Best pass rusher linebacker? No, he was our best pass rusher last year in fall camp. Well, even Foskey, right? Foskey was pretty good, right? But that's how dynamic he was. He's 6'3". He's super fast. We have a guy that I recently hired in January to cover recruiting for us, but he made his living doing NFL draft evaluations, and he's been talking to me about Marist Liufau since the Bama game, about how good this kid is. This kid's super twitchy, super rangy. He's just got to harness it all, right? Like he was played a little bit out of control and wasn't a super disciplined player from an assignment standpoint, but the tools are there. I mean, he's a kid that it's an interesting one, Mark. He started his career, he was super skinny early in high school, and he played corner. So, but then he kind of started to fill out, and now he's, over 220 pounds, and he can really run. So they need him to emerge, because if he takes hold of that will job and he's like, this is my job, then what that allows Notre Dame to do is then move JD Bertrand to Mike, and he can play in that 1-2 punch with Bo Bauer. Because the thing about JD is, JD was a really good player for Notre Dame at times last year, and he was especially good against the run. But he's just not a natural space guy, right? Like he's a good athlete, but because of the length, he's not a great space guy. And he's kind of a downhill kid, just mentality-wise. He's a downhill guy. His game fits way better at Mike. You can't move him to Mike if Marist isn't ready to go and take hold of that job. But if Marist says, hey, look, this is my job, and then you've got Prince Kollie battling it there, you've got the incoming freshman, you're going to feel way more comfortable moving JD Bertrand to Mike. Now, JD's going to be out most of the spring, so he's not going to get a ton of reps there. So the battle's going to kind of take care of itself as far as the will. You're going to know by the time JD gets back in the fall if Marist is ready to take over that will job with Prince Kollie as his rotation guy. And if that's the case, now move JD to Mike. Now you start kind of saying, okay, now JD's going to get more out of his game because he's playing in a better position. You're going to have way more length and speed at will now. Now you start to feel like they at least have the personnel to get the production they need from the second level, because they certainly didn't get it last year. And that's going to be a big part of whether or not this defense is just going to be pretty good like it was last year's. Pretty good defense, right? Look at all the numbers. I mean, top 10 in efficiency and all that. Or are they going to be a defense that's capable of saying, hey, we're championship level defense, right? Like we're not just really good. We can keep Ohio State in check. We can keep Clemson in check. Right now, they don't have that group. But there's the potential to have that group. And I think Marist Liufau is one of the keys to that.